Welcome to our special interview. Today we have a great honor and pleasure to have Excellency Dr. Sok Siphana, co-founder and chairman of the Asian Vision Institute and also senior advisor to the Royal Government of Cambodia. So we're going to discuss the topic on RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, which came into force early this year, January this year. And Dr. Sok Siphana is one of the architects of Cambodia trade diplomacy or economic diplomacy, and would like to seek your opinions with regards to RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. What are the motives and interests of Cambodia in pushing this regional trade agenda?
Well, going back some nearly 2 decades earlier, we had the WTO accession. There was a big wave of investment, trade, that sort of thing. But then after nearly 2 decades, the effect is sort of like subsumed, right? And I believe the RCEP is that second wave of trade that will come to Cambodia. RCEP is only second to the WTO only. And I believe that with all the provision that the RCEP has, there'll be many opportunities that Cambodia could derive benefit from that. That's grosso modo how I see this RCEP playing in the context of the Cambodian economy.
Yeah, you have written a lot of op-eds, commentaries on RCEP. So what are the key messages or the key findings from your research or your reading of RCEP?
Well, first and foremost, it's all about the tariff, right? I mean, the fact that the RCEP have, reduced the tariff over a certain period of time, depending on a different country. But for Cambodia, it means that we open up the opportunity, to export to all this bigger market. We have Japan, China, Korea, Australia, New Zealand. So these are the major market that, with the exception of China and a bit of Japan, we don't have this big market access to this country. ASEAN is still quite small in terms of trade. But as a bloc, as this 15-country bloc, the opportunity for export is much higher. But then you're also talking about the service sector. The service sector is all about, entry to Cambodia. 20 years ago, when we negotiated accession to WTO, we don't really have a private sector. We don't really have a professional service, distribution service, transport service. We don't have that much. Nearly 20 years later, most of this sector, Cambodian are operating. And they are already, I would say, mid-size already. So it means that with the RCEP, when we welcome entry of a foreign company coming to Cambodia, the Cambodian company can be in position to partner with them, to enter the supply chain, to provide the services, and to be, I would say, a shareholder for that matter. So certainly from a small local company, they could have a share of a regional company, that sort of thing. So from these two perspectives, it's quite interesting. We see more Cambodian, I would say, entering the regional market through the shareholding with the bigger company, who, of course, they are aiming to enter the local market, but vice versa. It's also enable Cambodian company to have a taste of what it is to be part of the larger company.
Yeah. So, Excellency, you also a lawyer, right? A legal consultant, and you also a partner of Sok Siphana Associates. From a legal point of view, what are the loopholes or the gaps, legal gaps that we need to fulfill, or what do public and private sector in Cambodia need to do more with regard to legal reforms?
Well, Basically, it's all about providing a good, sound, conducive, transparent legal framework. That is the most crucial thing, because what is important for a foreign investor is predictability. Of the legal system, of the rule. I think in the case of Cambodia, our legal framework now is quite good compared to 20 years ago, right? The commercial law is there, the dispute resolution, we have now a commercial arbitration center, that enable investor not to go to Cambodian court, but to resort to alternate dispute resolution, that sort of thing. So I would say, grosso modo, many of this procedure, we move online already, right? Which is great. Yeah. Because it really cut down the cost of doing business in terms of cost of registration, that sort of thing is all online, so people can just move to set up a company. But to me, it's more about how this company can enter into good joint venture with local company. And this is where the local company, and here it's not much about the state, it's about the private sector themselves, that they need to be more conscious of, having proper due diligence. Because before, it is the foreign company who do the due diligence on the local company, but the local company rarely do diligence on the foreign company. So this thing have to change. To be a decent partner, a decent shareholder, you got to know who you're dealing with. And this is where I think that the local company now need to reach out more to professional law firm, professional consultancy, good accounting firm, so that, they know who are the people who want to reach out to them, right? So this is some of the thing a bit more challenging for the local company, because many of them are not used to reach out to professional firm, right? Yeah. And here I'm not talking about law, but I'm talking about accounting firm, talking about consulting firm, because ultimately you're dealing at the international level now. You're dealing at the regional level now. So it's no more a mom and pop. I know your father, you know my mother. Forget about that. You're dealing with corporation, and corporation need, a clear, I would say, contract to regulate their relationship. Yeah,
that's right. For instance, foreign companies would have more interest, stronger interest in coming to Cambodia to invest in Cambodia and perhaps use Cambodia as a production base. Yes. To export to RCEP market, because yes. It's the largest market, I think, so far. It's a regional trade arrangement. So in that case, of course, we have recently adopted a new amended law, investment law, to attract more foreign direct investments. So in this scenario, that RCEP would have Cambodia boost the inflow of FDI to Cambodia. So from a legal point of view, you mentioned about due diligence and so on. What can we do more to attract more foreign direct investment that interested in export-oriented industries, because for the RCEP market?
Okay, well, late last year, we had a new investment law. It's a new investment law. It's not an amended, because the old one predate all the way to 1994. They amended 2003. But this is a clean new investment law that really take into account the ASEP, for that matter, because we know that with the ASEP enter to force, many new opportunity will arise, new market. New investment. So the new investment law have sort of like taken into account about 20 sectors that we feel will be a new emerging market, for Cambodia, right? So I would say in starting with the research and development, area in electronic, for example, in e-commerce, or what else that matter to the investment community, right? So all these new sectors are there, so that when the investment come, they know that they can invest into a structure that enable them to export back to a third country. Because ultimately, trade cannot function without investment in industrialization, right? So here we're moving toward the fourth industrial revolution. We're moving toward smart engineering, smart city, all this new thing. And if the investment law do not take into account this new sector and they don't give incentive to this new sector, investor wouldn't invest. And to me, this new investment is all about that, is to provide enough incentive, fiscal and non-fiscal and investment protection to attract this investor to come. Because the more they invest into productive capacity in Cambodia, the more we can have the ability to produce, for export. So ASEP need both, and that's why in ASEP we have a good chapter on investment that provide many protection for investment in ASEP country. Yeah.
So relating to this investment, also intellectual property rights is always a kind of very sensitive, complex issue. Look at the state of kind of respecting intellectual property rights or enforcing rule and regulation relating to intellectual property rights in Cambodia. Your assessment on this, the state of intellectual property rights in Cambodia, and what we can do more to improve.
Well, I would say, since we joined WTO and about 2 decades earlier, and we have put in place a good core IP law, right? Mm-hmm. Trademark, copyright, patent, industrial design, utility. These are the core IP law that the WTO would consider as the core system. But then Cambodia also have adopted its own law on geographical indication, for example. And in terms of enforcement, I would say trademark we're doing well. I mean, well-known mark is well protected. And in the area of enforcement, I would say we have a good system of enforcement already. If a company infringe import cement, for example, and then use a well-known mark that is not theirs, there is a whole ecosystem of enforcement measure, to tackle, even at the border level, right? So if you suspect that the shipment is going to come with a counterfeit product, you can work with the custom, with the economic police to stop them, to confiscate that. And so I would say the enforcement of IP in Cambodia is well advanced. Of course, in the area of patent, we still rely on Singapore, for example, that in terms of the review of the patent, for example, we have cooperation with Japan, with the European Union. So I think certain area we're well advanced. Trademark is a good example. Other new novel area that require high level of sophistication, of technical expertise, of engineering capability. We still a bit behind, but we're more relying on partner countries that are advanced, like Singapore, Japan, or EU for that matter. Yeah. So I would say, for most of the business, they'll be more worried about counterfeit product, about protection of their mark, so nobody can steal their mark, that sort of thing. And these are basic. And Cambodia is well advanced in this area already. Yeah.
Yeah. One last question on ASEP. Because Cambodia is the chair of ASEAN this year, and 10 years ago, Cambodia is kind of pioneer in pushing for the ASEP negotiation. So it took about 8 years to conclude. So now come 10 years later, Cambodia have ASEP. So what next? So what, as a chair of ASEAN, what should Cambodia do more to how to say, to implement RCEP more effectively?
Yeah, I think, negotiating RCEP is a long, convoluted process, mainly because the difficulty arising from the disparity of the different membership, right? You have developed country like Japan, Australia, New Zealand, Korea. Then you have developing country like, well, not so small, but still developing. China is one. Then in ASEAN, we don't have least developed country. Cambodia is a good case. Laos is a good case. So the disparity of this country explain why it takes so long, because RCEP is in a way is very ASEAN centric. It's not Chinese centric, it's not Japanese centric. It is ASEAN centric, and that's why we're very mindful of the disparity, on how we can use this trade agreement to help narrow the development divide. And this is very important. Say for example, in the investment side, there are provision to encourage investor to invest more into least developed country so that they can grow, they can build up their capacity, they can grow, they can trade better. So I think, to me, that's the past. We've done that already. The agreement is in effect. Now the trick is, from now for the next 5 years, is every government should make a lot of effort to promote the agreement, to build the awareness with the private sector, with the chamber, so that they think and breathe RCEP. Because at the end of the day, it's private sector who trade. It's private sector who invest. And the more they know about it, the better. And bear in mind that Cambodia economy is predominantly SME. And SME by default, they don't have big legal team, to review all this agreement, to advise CEO how to do this, to do that. SME, they can't afford that. So they would rely on a lot of the public sector to help them. And this is where I see the need of the public sector, the Ministry of Commerce, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Culture, to have more, awareness campaign, more workshop to explain, hey guys, if you are producing, you have banana plantation, for example, market to China, this is how you do. Certificate origin, phytosanitary, that's how you do it. So I would say, Cambodian company, they're all SME. Don't ask them to read the agreement. Don't ask them. Don't waste your time, because it's too complicated. We should ask the government to have more awareness campaign, workshop, and then bring expert. Bring freight forwarding company, bring company who specialize in phytosanitary, so that they can meet with this SME and then advise them, okay, you want to export banana to Korea? This is how you do it. And, on certificate origin, these are the form you have to fill. And that's how we can really help this SME, our own SME, to enter the marketplace. Right?
Thank you very much, Excellency, for your insight on RCEP. So, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of our dialogue, special dialogue on the RCEP. So, once again, thank you, Excellency Dr. Sok Siphana, for sharing his insights with us. So, looking forward to another special episode with Dr. Sok Siphana. Thank you.